Hey everybody, it's Tracy, and in response to my previous video about gamification and the legalities, modalities involved in that, I got a lot of questions, and like the biggest question, albeit not particularly stated this way, was what's the difference between gambling, sweepstakes, and peer-to-peer, like daily fantasy, things of that nature. And so you start at the top, the highly regulated area, really the only regulated area, and you have gambling. And gambling can be broadly defined as prize, chance, and consideration, right? You can win a prize, there's random chance involved, and there's consideration to participate in the activity in order to win the prize, right? So blackjack, right? $20, whether online at a table, people will say, well, it is a skill, but there's random chance because of the cards. And then there's the prize, which is the pot, right? And same with like sports wagering, right? Again, you could argue the modalities of whether it's skill or chance, but at the end of the day, it's regulated. So when you look at the middle ground, which is like the daily fantasy sort of peer-to-peer, the way that you get around, right, gaming regulation and the need for a license is generally to take out chance, right? Because if it's a true contest of skill, then there's no chance involved. And the overwhelming majority of states, with the exception of like Washington, have viewed daily fantasy and then, things like it, like kind of borderline in the prediction markets, as being true games of skill, which therefore fall out of the definition of gaming. And now if you apply that to the crypto sphere, right, and you see this not only in DeFi, but in apps like Ember and things like that, or you have like trading contests, like Coinbase even has them, right? You can argue, and it's peer-to-peer, right? And the winner can get a prize. You can still offer the prize, but at the end of the day, it is a game of skill as opposed to chance, right? And then you have sweepstakes, which have been around forever, and there's a ton of legal decisions and interpretations that have come down from it. But in a true sweepstakes type environment, you're going to want to take away the consideration, right? Because almost in all instances, a sweepstakes is just sort of like a lottery, but the consideration therefore has to be very minimal, right? Or non-existent whatsoever. So what's prevalent on a lot of like DeFi platforms, and you can argue, DeFi's got its own issues, right? Because with payments and should it be registered and all that. But, one area that I think regulators haven't really latched onto or really bothered, and this would be like a state level type regulation, is that there's these sort of quasi lottery sweepstakes, and that you can call them sweepstakes, but they're not necessarily sweepstakes. And, it requires consideration, like you have to buy a ticket or you have to take some act. Like back in the day, going back to Ed McMahon and Publishers Clearinghouse, it was literally like fill out a form or you get a postcard in the mail, right? I mean, it was kind of stupid, but you can't compel somebody to take action. And like the most minimal amount of consideration will actually trigger gaming laws, right? So, if it's like buy something or go somewhere and use a coupon, like anything like that has been found to be adequate consideration that would trigger the need to register as a gaming operation. So you always see, like when you do see sweepstakes, no purchase necessary. Well, when I surveyed sort of the landscape of, DeFi and non-DeFi, and they run these sort of promotions, right? You never see that. And what's unique about sweepstakes, much like gaming law, they're regulated state by state. And in some states, like Florida and New York, you have to post like the winner, and you have to post the prize given, and you have to disclose the value of the prize that's being awarded, even if you're offering like no consideration and operating outside the ambit of gaming laws. So, when you get into these like scenarios, and I really love like gamifying, all elements of crypto, because I think that's a fantastic way to sort of get people on your app, get people on your DEX, whatever the case may be. But you're just sort of like trumpeting up the potential liability for you unless you do it the right way, which is very easy to do, right? Like, you just have to like look at disclosure. So if it's a true sweepstakes, and like you can almost blur the line when you have these trading contests, a lot of them are really just sweepstakes because people are sort of like just guessing like what the number is going to be, almost like old school numbers games, right? And that's really sweepstakes more than anything else because it's a random chance. But you can't have people pay to get into it, right? Like, it has to be free. If it's a peer-to-peer contest, right? Think of like DraftKings or something like with daily fantasy in football or other sports, you can charge that entry fee. Like, there's no issue with that. It's just, it has to be on something that is purely a game of skill, which, there's been decisions promulgated that says like trading contests and things like that are true skill, which they are. So it makes sense. So, the big thing is gamification's awesome, but you wade into these different areas that, are unregulated to an extent, right? Like, the peer-to-peer is really just sort of outside the ambit of it. The Unlawful Internet Gaming Act sort of exempted it well before it was really even a thing. And then you have state-level sweepstakes laws, which are unique to the state, and I don't think a lot of crypto platforms really adhere to them. So that's my take. Great idea, just not without its pitfalls. And like, if you have a regulator that's looking at it and saying, well, we want to get you for something, it may be the low-hanging fruit. So that would be my advice. But if you have any questions, as always, hit me up, adam@adamtracy.io, and I will talk to you next time. Cheers.